Marvel is getting so large and spans so much of the entertainment calendar that a lot of fans can't help but focus on it 24/7. The amount of content they're churning out just spurs on the theorist movement, and honestly, we can't help ourselves either. Did you know the Endgame teasers are reportedly only giving away the first 15 to 20 minutes of the film? We're putting a lot of stock and theories into content that only may be from a quarter of the first act. There may be hints to why that is in the featured toys attached to the movie. For both Thor and Rocket's action figures, the back of the box includes information about them battling new foes. Behind the Screen is here to take that little detail and run with it, so get ready for the latest Endgame theory about the possibility of a new villain entering the fray. First off, we don't need a replacement Thanos. We all enjoyed the big purple guy traveling the universe in search of the Infinity Stones. No one wants to see him go away anytime soon. This theory isn't about him doing a poor job. In fact, fans from all different perspectives still want Thanos to be the central villain for Endgame. His storyline for Infinity War gave him a front row seat for every core conflict. The way he fought through all the Avengers to achieve his goal was admirable. We also aren't saying Thanos is right in his actions. We're simply saying that watching his journey was rewarding from an entertainment perspective. We still got emotional at the end when he succeeded. Keep in mind, there were minor villains who assisted him in his efforts during that film. Real quickly though, name one of them. Go ahead, go on, we'll give you a little bit of time. If you're like the average Marvel viewer, likely you had trouble coming up with even one name to go along with the many faces of those henchmen that appeared and disappeared so rapidly during the last Avengers movie. That's a bit of a problem. However, if he takes central stage again with small side villains with nearly unquantifiable backstories, then we're gonna have a bit of a problem. All that does for Endgame is make it more like Infinity War. Viewers don't want something entirely new, but a villainous wrinkle feels like a logical step in the next direction. If the creators decide to bring in a new villain, the story will add some depth with that decision. After all, this movie is supposed to be 3 hours long. Seriously, we might need an intermission for this sucker. All that content needs to go somewhere. It seems inevitable that the writers will include an additional conflicting force for our heroes. There are tons of heroes and tons of arcs that need wrapping up by the time the credits roll. It's hard to imagine that a ton of those will be left unsettled, but they can't all center on a fight with Thanos. It was hard enough in Infinity War to get all the heroes fighting him, so to do it again will feel like a misstep. A new rival emerging for the Snappening is just what this film needs to breathe. So hopefully you're on board with the new villain at this point. If not, we're sorry we haven't persuaded you yet, but there is way more to this theory coming. It's easy to talk about how much an additional threat would add to this story. Still, no one likes giving up the hypotheticals for some real concrete clues to its possibility. That's why we're here though, to help show you where those answers might be coming from. This villain has to come from somewhere. It would be weird if he just kinda popped up and was like, "Hey guys, I'm the evil dude."
Come and get some, space dog!
We don't know why we assume the villain is a guy. It just seems like Marvel's preference to this point. Anyways, to do that would be a disservice to the investment by the fans. Think about the recent Marvel villains. Even when they just pop up into the narrative out of nowhere, it's usually done so they can explain their origins later. Hela and Ghost both received a chunk of backstory devoted to them in the plot because they came out of nowhere. We're simply saying the new evil needs to be explained in the larger concept. They can't simply just exist and show up with no context. Which brings us to the most likely explanation. Surprise, surprise, it's the quantum realm. Yes, it's become the poster child for fan theories about Endgame, but it seriously might explain this whole potential plot point in an easy way. However, we know people are exhausted by the mere mention of its name at this point, so let's start with the less likely theories. Some believe the villain may come from the Guardians of the Galaxy neck of the woods. The big example is Adam, the post-credit villain featured in Volume 2. He is comparable to Thanos in power, and his origins are more aligned with him. He'd be an easy recruit for Thanos to target and then use for his own agenda. The Supreme Intelligence seen in Captain Marvel is also mentioned as a possible connecting villain, since the battle between it and Captain Marvel was the reason she left Earth at the end of her film. It's possible that will come back to bite her in this upcoming film. A super improbable theory that pops up occasionally is the re-emergence of the Skrulls. Audience were taken aback when, spoiler alert, the Skrulls turned out to be good people at the end of Captain Marvel. The Secret Invasion hopefuls were frustrated by that plot twist, and since then they've been working on theories to prove they will turn evil due to the snapping. All that is unlikely though, as the creators seem to be signaling that they want to go in a different direction with those characters. Which brings us back to the quantum realm. The alternate dimension leaves open the possibility for a number of villains within the Marvel Universe. The idea of the villain coming from somewhere within the galactic side of the MCU is not far-fetched, it's just limiting. Alternatively, the idea that any number of villains could appear through the interaction with this vastly unexplored plot device is overwhelmingly irresistible. After all, we're all under the assumption that this villain needs to be as large as Thanos in power. That's why the idea of Adam or the Supreme Intelligence is tossed around into the ring so often. The threat needs to match the Mad Titan in order to push the stakes for all the heroes. Nothing will distract them from Thanos if they aren't as strong as him. The Avengers are too singularly focused on him to be put off by some minor threat. However, this all doesn't seem possible at the moment. The quantum realm can make that happen, more on that later, but it might not need to go big to make a compelling subplot. The scale required to fill that huge runtime and make the team work towards its goal in a more compelling way is hazy at best. Sure, it does seem that the new villainous mastermind will need to provide enough power to prove to be an ample distraction, but the scale can easily go smaller too. What we want to do is go over the 3 general storylines this story might take from the smallest threat to the largest threat. All of these would take place within the quantum realm and have a high likelihood of happening. Still, no one theory is totally perfect, so remember, it's up to you to decide. The first scenario is a heel turn by a comrade on the team currently. Yeah, only one of these actually seems likely. You know who we're talking about. Hawkeye. Just kidding, obviously we're referring to Nebula. The plausible subplot is her arc being completed by defeating Thanos. Despite always coming in second to Gamora all her life, she'll be the one to kill her father.
Where is Gamora?
Yeah, I'll do you one better. Who's Gamora?
To do that, she'll need a power boost. Maybe she finds the advantage in the quantum realm. It feels like that'd be the case. Either way, the fear is she will then turn on our heroes. After all, she's known in the past she isn't afraid to turn on comrades if it serves her agenda. Perhaps with her dad out of the picture, Nebula will take the opportunity to fill the void. It offers a huge shift in goals for the team and change of pace for the movie that fans wouldn't see coming. Also worth noting is the potential time element in all of this. The quantum theories include some elements of time travel. Many believe the heroes will go back in time to the Battle of New York or even earlier to find a way to stop Thanos. You know what that means. Anytime you mess with time, you offer up the possibility for characters to re-emerge. Who's ready for round 2 of Malekith? Okay, that's definitely not gonna happen, but the potential for a villain from their past to reappear is more than likely to be the result of messing with time. The most interesting part about this supposed subplot is the opportunity for said former villain to turn good. Maybe we see Loki come back to life in the form of time travel and work with the Avengers to defeat Thanos. Another possibility is the Avengers will need to capture Red Skull back in the 1940s to understand his knowledge of the Infinity Stones and how to stop it. The biggest threat would be the one no one sees coming. Do you remember how Tony reacted to climbing through a wormhole?
What the hell?
He suffered from the stress of that incident and the fear of a greater looming threat. His response was to create a solution that might offer peace in our time. That's right, maybe the answer to stopping Thanos lies in the past in a darker sense. Perhaps Stark was right and Ultron is the answer to defeating Thanos. This scenario would require the team going back in time to bring back to life one of the greatest threats to the Avengers prior to Thanos' arrival. It'd be such a difficult choice. However, none of these are as likely as the last theory we want to cover. It turns out Jim Starlin, the comic book creator of Thanos and most of the Galactic storylines, said one of his characters will be in Endgame. So yes, technically Thanos is one of his characters, but he was referring to the addition of a new character. The problem is, he never specified if they were good or bad. For our money, we bet Endgame sees the introduction of Chronos. Ant-Man and the Wasp hinted at a city in the background of Hank's trip to the quantum realm. That shows the dimension is lived in. It's more than likely Chronos is being held there. He has the ability to manipulate time. He might be the only one providing the Avengers with the gear necessary to move through time. However, once they successfully defeat Thanos, Chronos will take this opportunity to emerge as a larger threat. No matter which scenario you buy, the potential storylines are all intriguing. Most importantly, the inclusion of a new villain offers one of the most important new wrinkles of all. It offers the chance to set up the next phase of the MCU. The villain the creators decide to go with, if they decide to go with a new villain introduction at all, provides the foundation for conflicts to be resolved in Phase 4. Interest in Marvel's future hinges on that decision. The writers need to choose wisely. Here's to hoping it's somehow Galactus, but we know that's not possible. Either way, Thanos needs to be stopped. With him facing defeat, someone will need to fill his seat atop the mountain of big-time villains. He can't simply leave a vacuum. Perhaps it'll be filled by Nebula or another current villain still running around the MCU. Or maybe the element of time travel will bring back an old foe with some new upgrades to make it even more dangerous. Worse yet, the endless scenarios possible may bring out the villains Marvel have just been holding back to this point. You just never know. We're sure you have your own opinions and theories though, so feel free to comment down below with some of your thoughts. Don't forget to also follow us for more theories and breakdowns. All you have to do is hit the link down below to be automatically subscribed.